want to tell you about something that's really cool that's happened at both of our local high schools of Dacula, Seckinger, and Mill Creek that you might not even know about. And it's one of my favorite events every year. So stay tuned. I'm Michael Coker, and I am the mayor of the city of Mulberry. And in Mulberry, we obviously don't have a Mulberry High School. Our kids are divided up at three separate high schools. Those are Seckinger High School, Mill Creek High School, and Dacula High School. And I'm going to tell you about something that's really cool that happens every single year at those three high schools, and you might not even know about it. And it is called the Friday Night Food Fights. And you might be thinking, a food fight? Oh boy, I do not want my kids to be involved in a food fight. But it's not one of those kind of food fights. It's one for charity, and it does a lot of good in this community. And so these high school kids are changing lives, and you don't even know it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, honor them, and thank them for their commitment of what they do every single year. And explain to you why this is an event that even if you have an elementary or a middle school student in one of these clusters, you're definitely going to want to get involved. So the Friday Night Food Fight was started a significant amount of time ago, and the purpose was that our local food pantries were low on food. This time of year, especially in the fall, we're coming off the summer months, and so the summer months are obviously a very popular time for our local food banks to distribute a significant amount of food because kids are home from school, people are generally out and about, and so typically when you get around the fall months, food banks are generally at some of their lowest points. And so back about, I think it was like 5-6 years ago, there was an individual who decided that, hey, what can we do to get the local high schools involved to help our local food banks? And so this individual went, and it started at Mill Creek High School. And the idea was we were going to do what's called a Friday night food fight. And they basically, at the time, Mill Creek's biggest football rival was Dacula, because obviously both were located in a similar area directly across town from each other. And so the idea was we're going to start a competition between Mill Creek High School and Dacula High School to see who can raise or bring in the most food for your local food bank. And this started, and it was a huge success. Well, this has been going on for a significant amount of time now, and this year was the biggest food fights that we have ever had. First, Seckinger High School had a Friday night food fight against Mountain View High School, and then for the first time in a long time, we went back to the original food fight, which was Mill Creek High School versus Dacula High School. And so we had these two major food fights to help support these local food banks. And the idea at these food fights is that these students would bring in canned goods and cereals and dry goods and would save them, and they get weighed. There's these gigantic scales that are brought in, and they're put into these big giant boxes, all the canned goods, all the food, all the dry goods, and then they're weighed. And the school that brings in the most food is ultimately determined to be the food fight champion. And like I said, there are local food banks in our area that would not exist or would not be able to function without this event because they collect so much food at these events that sometimes they can stock the food bank for months or even years to get through the holidays. And so this has been a huge part of these local community food banks and the way that these high schoolers are getting involved. And so this year at the Seckinger versus Mountain View food fight, Seckinger High School ultimately was the champion. So that means that Seckinger and all of their cluster, the food that were brought in at the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools, they gathered more food than Mountain View High School. And so ultimately, they were given the cup. They were the champion of that particular food fight for this year. So congratulations to the Seckinger cluster. And then in the Mill Creek versus Dacula cluster, actually just wrapped up this past couple weeks. And Mill Creek was ultimately determined to be the champion. And so, like I said, it's a friendly competition amongst high schools, not to see who can win a basketball game or a football game or a soccer game, but to see who can do the most good in the community and who can bring in the most food to support those in need. And so this is a really awesome opportunity. And I'm involved with one of those food banks. I serve on the board of one of the food banks. And I can tell you that how much this makes a difference in our community. And it's so inspiring to see these high school kids put it all together, rally the troops, basically get everyone excited and pumped up to come in and help support the food fight and help support their local food pantry. And so you might be thinking, well, I don't have a high schooler, so how can I be involved? Well, if you have an elementary school student or a middle school student within that high school's cluster, they also collect. And I can tell you some really great stories of elementary school kids that are saving their allowance or not buying ice cream on a Friday because they wanted to go to Kroger or Publix and buy some additional canned goods to help someone out. And so it really is this really cool community aspect where the community comes together, these kids come together and really try to do good and help both their community, but also their school win the championship. And so this has become one of my favorite events. So if you have an elementary school student, a middle school student, or a high school student at one of our 3 high schools, next year when this event comes around again, I would definitely encourage you to help out, get involved in any way you can, because it's also a really fun way for the kids to feel like they are a part of something bigger than themselves, both in the sense of helping the community, but also in pride for their high school and their local team. And so that's one way you can get involved. But let's say you don't even have a student. Let's say you're like, hey, we don't have anybody. I would say reach out to your local food bank. They are always looking for volunteers. They're always looking for people to help. And especially they're always looking for help around this food fight because, as you can imagine, these schools bring in truckload after truckload after truckload of food. And so they're always looking for people to help go pick up food, organize the food, sort the food when it arrives at the food bank. And it's a huge part of what we do in this particular community. And so the Friday Night Food Fights is one of my all-time favorite events. It's one of the things that I look forward to every single year. Is to see, they typically give the award at halftime. They bring out student leaders from both high schools and they present a trophy to the winner. And so again, congratulations to Seckinger High School, congratulations to Mill Creek High School, but also congratulations to Mountain View and to Dacula, because at the end of the day, we were all winners because every one of these schools really contributed, really worked hard to do what they could to help support our local food pantry. And so that is one thing that you might not know that happens in Mulberry every single year that you should be very proud of, both the kids that we have here and the adults, the administrators at these high schools that make this a priority, make this something that they feel passionate about and confident with. And it's just kind of one of those things in Mulberry that makes me smile and makes me very proud of the work that our students do. And so those always happen typically around football season, so be on the lookout. The best way, if you want to learn more about these food fights and where they happen and what they do, is to follow the local athletic associations or the local high schools on social media. You can also follow your local food pantry and learn more about these food fights on social media as another way to kind of figure out what help might be needed and when those are coming up. But I just want to say to all the kids out there, congratulations on a job well done this season. Thank you for all you did for the people, both of Mulberry and the surrounding communities, making sure that no child and no family goes hungry. So thank you and kudos to you. You should be very proud of what you've accomplished. And so if you like getting these updates and maybe learning some things about Mulberry that you didn't know, definitely like and subscribe. But until next time, thanks for listening.